Hey, what's up, guys? It's been a long time. I know I haven't uploaded a video in quite a while. I talked about on Twitter actually that I was actually considering, not really ending the channel, but basically I said I was not going to do videos anymore. I've decided against that, but it's one of those things where it's like the time to do videos. I don't have it. Especially reviews. It's been really tough to sit down and actually get a review done. So I apologize. This is going to be another games I've been playing recently video, but I figure let's do this instead of just not put out any content for months on end. I don't know. Hopefully, I can get back to doing videos more often. But I've been playing actually a decent amount of games, and doing a review for each of them is just going to be a little too difficult. And some of them I don't think it would be fair to do a review because I haven't actually finished any of these just yet. One game in particular has been taking up pretty much all of my time. But no, I'm not going to go on hiatus. I'm not going to end the channel or anything like that. But I guess I'm being kind of lazy with the types of videos I'm producing. I do want to get back to more varied videos, but I figure you guys might want to know at least what I've been playing and maybe my opinions on some of these games. And so I thought, yeah, so let's just get a video done here. Man, it's been a while. I'm a little rusty, I gotta say, but let's get started. So let's start with WarioWare Gold here on the 3DS. I love the WarioWare series. It's one of my favorite series. It doesn't get enough love, I feel. And it's been a long time since a traditional WarioWare game. Honestly, the Wii was the last one I can think of. This is like a greatest hits compilation, essentially, although there's a lot of new mini-games in here as well. If you haven't played a WarioWare game before, man, you're missing out. Really charming, hilarious games where they're like 5-second mini games, and you just basically do a bunch of them in a row, and you have kind of like lives, and it kind of speeds up the farther you get. And they're very simple. This one takes the twist controls from the Game Boy Advance one, where you would actually twist the system to do different things and kind of interact with the games. It's got the touchscreen ones from the DS game, and then there's just the button ones as well, which actually tend to be my favorite. But yeah, a lot of these weird, crazy mini games, like one where you'll have to pick a nose with these fingers. One you'll have to chew this apple. It's really bizarre mini games here. There's a lot of retro themed ones which I really love as well. Some of them are simple, some of them are pretty tough, especially on the higher speeds, and it's very chaotic, and it's just extremely fast once the speed gets crazy, and it's just you have to kind of know what the minigame expects of you really quickly, and just do it quickly, and then move on to the next. It gets pretty intense actually when the difficulty gets ramped up. A lot of cool bonus content in this version in particular. A lot of interesting challenge modes. The story doesn't take that long to finish. It took me maybe an hour. But this is the kind of game that you kind of just pick up and play. It's a very pick up and play style game. It's a ton of fun. I'm still kind of playing this here and now. And it's just, man, I just love this series, and it's fantastic to get another one. I don't think this game has been selling that well, unfortunately. And I do wish it was on the Switch, because WarioWare games are a lot of fun multiplayer. The one on GameCube is still my favorite because it has an amazing 4-player mode, where there's a lot of different modes, but there's one where it's a sudden death kind of one where all 4 of you have your own screens, you're doing different mini games, and then basically you all have lives, and then the last person to have their lives left sorry, wins. It's really fun. Unfortunately, there's only local multiplayer. Of course, I'm never going to get the chance to try that, but yeah, it's a really unique collection of minigames. If you haven't played a WarioWare game, definitely give this a shot or look into it. It's minigame compilations essentially are never going to be, I know a lot of people shit on them, but WarioWare at least did something different. And I do like the kind of greatest hits kind of package that they've put together here. What's next? A game I'm playing right now, another pick-up-and-play style game. We've got Dead Cells here on the PS4. An indie game that's been in early access on Steam for quite a while, and finally it's a complete game. And when it first came out on early access, people were raving about it, and I always wanted to play it. It always looked fairly appealing to me, but I wanted to wait till there was a physical copy, or at least the game was finished. And I gotta say, I love how a lot of these indie games are getting physical releases now. Interestingly, this came out in Canada a little earlier than the US. Sometimes that will happen. I remember that happening with Fire Emblem Awakening, actually. Like, that game came out a week earlier in Canada for some reason. But yeah, I'm still kind of going through this one. It's a roguelike Metroidvania, essentially, if you've looked at gameplay of it, where, you know, I'm not typically into roguelikes. For me, they need meaningful progression between runs. A lot of roguelikes, like Binding of Isaac and Enter the Gungeon and things like that, you'll like find items through your runs that basically when you get them, you'll have a chance of finding that item in a later run. And that's about it for progression in a lot of like these roguelikes. And that to me is not enough. I need more than that to keep me going. And Dead Cells is good at that. Where, yeah, it's got those kind of elements to it, but there's basically, you collect cells on your runs, and if you die while you have them on you in a level, they're gone for good. But if you progress through a level with your cells, say you have 20 of them, you can basically give them to this collector NPC to kind of like unlock different weapons that can be like found randomly in your later runs. Some of them as like a starting weapon, for instance. And the progression of these weapons at the collector NPC kind of stays between runs. So it never feels like your run is wasted. It never feels like you wasted any time playing this game. And there's a lot of upgrades, too, that you can unlock by using your cells. There's like these blacksmith NPCs later that allow you to kind of increase the percentage of finding better weapons and shields and things like that in your later runs. And that's great. It's meaningful progression, and I love that. You're kind of upgrading your character as you go through the run, but your stats kind of course, reset on your later runs. It's Metroidvania in the sense that you've got that classic Metroidvania-style map that's kind of you're kind of building it, essentially, as you're going through. And then you're going level through level. There's some non-linearity, so some of the levels can connect to two different other levels. So you can basically, the more you play it, you kind of memorize the layouts a little bit, but the levels themselves are randomly generated. One of the best things about this game, though, is just how it feels. This game feels fantastic to play. The controls are just amazing. The animation is so smooth. It's, you know, you've got like different weapons that you can kind of have. You can kind of have like trap weapons. They're called like utility weapons, I think. I can't remember. You have your standard melee weapons, though, as well, like swords, hammers, things like that. And you kind of increase your different stats. Brutality is a stat that you increase, and that's your like melee weapons. There's other stats you increase, too, but yeah, it's just the feel of this game. There's a dodge roll that feels excellent. You can also use a shield and parry. I never did that. There's also a bow that you can use for ranged attacks. The parrying in this game is really risky. I just don't think I'd ever get good enough at it to properly use it. Anytime I've tried to use a shield, I just end up taking more damage than I would like avoid. Although parrying, you obviously can hit other enemies. Very tough game. I'm not good at it. I haven't progressed very far. I've gone past the first boss, the concierge. Not much farther past that, because I'm kind of playing this game alongside another game. Very addictive. Another thing about this game is how addictive it is. It's one of those games where when you do a run, you're just like, okay, one more. And then you do another run. Okay, one more. I think I could do better this time. One more. It's a very good game. It's one of the few roguelikes that I think nails like the progression, the meaningful progression. I don't know if I ever beat this game. Like, it's so hard that, like, I don't know, it's going to take a while for me to actually eventually finish it. But it's a great pick-up and play style game, so in that sense, maybe I wish I kind of got it digitally to kind of switch from other games. But yeah, the hype is completely justified with this game. If you're like me and haven't typically gotten into roguelikes for kind of the same reasons, give this one a shot. I think you'll be pleasantly surprised by it. Oh yeah, it looks amazing too. I forgot to mention that. A gorgeous 2D art. Oh man, it's amazing. The music I'm not as into. Like, there's some really somber kind of like atmospheric music in here that's pretty good, but it's kind of, I don't know, it doesn't really, it's not really like what you would call entertaining or like catchy music or anything like that, but it does fit the game for the most part. But yeah, Dead Cells, very, very impressed with this game so far. Okay, not much to say about this one. I'm going to maybe do a review of these. Of course, I had to get Shenmue 1 and 2. Never played these before. I didn't have a Dreamcast, and I didn't play the second one on the original Xbox because I didn't play the first one. Man, these games, people absolutely love these games, but at the same time, it's one of those games that I feel like a lot of people, if they didn't play it growing up and don't have nostalgia towards it, they don't think it's that good. A lot of people I've seen say that when they play it for the first time, they just hate it. The first game, at least. My brother played the first game not too long ago for the first time. He didn't like it that much, but he loved the second game, interestingly enough. I feel that might be the case with me, but we'll see. I've playing the first one. I've played it for an hour so far. I'm not far enough to really judge it at this point. I will say, playing it, what I will say right now, it feels so quaint nowadays. But you really have to remember when the first Shenmue came out. You really weren't seeing games like this. Obviously, compared to like something like Grand Theft Auto 3, the world is obviously nowhere near as big as that, but it's far more detailed. You can open like every drawer that you see, and there's like items that you can pick up. The way you interact with the world is ahead of its time. I think that's the part of the game that's really fascinating. It's like this world that, like, I don't know, it's got so much interaction to it at a time where you really didn't see that. It's a very story-focused game, too. There's fairly lengthy cutscenes. The English voice acting in this game is hilarious. Like, the audio quality is so poor that it's actually kind of laughable, but the voice acting itself is not, like, the worst ever. And it kind of, I don't know, it kind of adds, like, this charm to it. I know people are going to hound on me to play the Japanese dialogue audio, it's way better, and yeah, it is, but I don't know, I kind of like the quirkiness of the English VO. But yeah, we'll see. I'm hoping the storyline is engaging, because it's a very slow-paced game. You're very slowly exploring this city. It's very confusing to know what you're supposed to do next at times. A lot of it is just talking to people and kind of like exploring your surroundings. It's got tank controls, although in a game like this, I think I'm a little more okay with it. Although now that I've played old school Resident Evil games, tank controls are actually not that big of a problem for me now. So I'm enjoying it so far. I'm definitely enjoying it so far. You just have to remember when this game came out and the things it was doing at the time. And, like, obviously it's going to feel quaint and dated in a lot of ways compared to what we have now, but I have heard, there's one thing that worries me. I'm not at it yet. For one, I've heard like there's so much forklift driving in this game that it's just absolutely insane. I haven't gotten to that yet, so that's going to be interesting. The one thing, though, I've heard there's a stealth segment in this game in a warehouse that's extremely unforgiving and very annoying with the tank controls. I'm not looking forward to that. I hope that's not as bad as it sounds, because that's the kind of shit that would make me quit a lot of games. Fucking stealth segments in games that aren't stealth sections with unforgiving trial and error garbage. Not looking forward to that. I hope that's not as bad as it sounds, but it sounds pretty fucking awful. We'll see. Shenmue 2, though, I'm curious about, because I feel like that game, from what I've heard, is like far more updated compared to the first. It's like does everything better than the first game, with maybe the exception of like the story. I'm not sure. We'll have to see there, but I'm so glad they finally released these games in one package. People have been asking for this for years, so props to Sega, and it's great to be able to finally play these well-loved games. What next? Let's go this. There's not much to say here. I'm probably going to do a review on this because there's so much to say. I've been playing tons of the games on this collection. In fact, I've finished all the first 7 of them at this point. I got the Platinum for the first collection. Not much to say about the first 4 games. They're all fantastic. I love them all. It's interesting playing all these games again for, I've played all these games like multiple times for the most part, but huge fan of the X series. I don't like it as much as the classic series, and playing through this collection has kind of cemented that. I just think it's not as consistent. Once you get to like X5, the quality drops so fucking hard that I just can't possibly put this on the level of the classic series, which really, the only classic game that, they're all good. Like, I don't think Mega Man 8 and 7 are amazing, but they're still good and better, much better than fucking X6, 7, and 8 in this collection. Yeah, the first 4 games are amazing. Playing this again, I've realized the X4 is my favorite in the series. Like, that's where it peaked as far as I'm concerned. Like, oh man, the art, the visuals are so good in that game. The music is just, oh, it's so catchy and it's so vibrant. I even like playing as Zero in that game. The bosses are all fantastic. It keeps things streamlined and simplified. After X4, they just went overboard with convoluted systems and mechanics. X4, they still kept things simple with like the upgrades. It's maybe a little too easy, but for the most part, I thought it was just spectacular, and I was surprised by how much more I enjoyed it this time around. Loved the first 3 games, obviously. Like, those are amazing. 3, I don't like as much as I used to. It's a very nostalgic game for me, but I've kind of noticed some flaws with that one. The ride armor system in that game is a little too convoluted, and the execution isn't all there. I also think X3 is like, the difficulty is completely fucked. It's extremely difficult in the beginning, but as soon as you get some upgrades, it's actually not so bad. And the final boss is... Ooh, the final boss is rough in X3. Oh my god, that took me forever. X2 is probably the best of the original trilogy, I would say. That game stands up better these days, I feel. But the second collection here doesn't fare so well. X5 was better than I remembered it being. It still has things I hate about it. The time limit system, where you have to destroy the colony or not let the colony get destroyed, is so convoluted and confusing. I don't like it. I don't like the armor, the abilities that you get in the game that kind of increase like your jump height and things like that. I never liked that. The Alia constantly interrupting you and telling you what to do mid-level is just... Ugh, I fucking hate it. It's the worst. But the level design in that game is not as bad as I remembered it being. It's actually fairly serviceable, and the final boss in X5 is awesome. Really fucking hard, because the way I played the game, all the bosses were at the max level, because the bosses have levels that are determined by how much time you have left with the colony to be destroyed. It's a mess. Like, that game is so fucking confusing and overloaded with convoluted garbage. Ugh. But... anyways, the final Sigma fight, I was like, he was super high leveled, so it was very difficult for me. It took me multiple attempts, but it was really satisfying when I finally did take Sigma down in that game. And then X5 has that horrible Quickman laser part in the first castle stage, which that works fine in Mega Man 2 because you can't cling on walls. But in X5 you can accidentally cling on walls, and as soon as that happens, it's very easy to have that happen, you're instantly dead. It just does not work. Some of the level design in X5 is very sloppy, but it's fine. I enjoyed it for the most part. This is kind of turning into a review here, but why not? Let's do the long games I've been playing recently video. Mega Man X5 is fucking gutter trash. I can't believe I liked X6 as a kid. I played it as a kid and I liked it. I guess I didn't have the critical eye to understand why it's so bad. But playing it again, I finished it. I'm never playing it again. Never again. It is one of the most aggravating experiences I've had playing a game. X6, there's so much to say about it. I'll keep things brief for the most part here, but you really have to see it in action and play it for yourself to understand how abysmal it is. It's baffling. Like, it's got some of the worst level design I've ever seen in a side-scrolling game. Like, there's not a single good level in that game. It's all fucking garbage. From, like, Blaze Heatnix's level, where you have to, like, fight the same mini-boss 6 times, and there's one part where, like, one-hit kill lava is rising up, and the weak points on it, if you're playing as regular X, there's actually not a reliable way to damage them, and you can just get yourself fucked. There's a lot of levels where you can get into a wrong area, and if you don't have the right power-up or armor ability, you can't actually progress through the level, so you have to kill yourself to run out of lives. The first Gates Fortress level, if you don't have certain armors, you can't actually progress through the level. You've got like Metal Shark Player's level with the Crushers that are so unforgiving, and it's hard to know the background, the way the background works. It's hard to know like what you can kind of avoid as far as that goes. The Nightmare system, which is like X6, of course, like X5, has all these convoluted systems to it. You have to rescue these Reploids that give you power-ups, and some power-ups you actually need to progress through the game, especially in Gates Fortress levels. There's like these nightmare enemies that if they kill the Reploids, they're gone for good. You have to reload a previous save because some of the Reploids might have a part that you actually need for later levels. The nightmare system is supposed to affect different levels that have like a red kind of outline on them for the stage select screen, but sometimes that doesn't even matter, and every level can be infected by these nightmare enemies. Some of the nightmare effects, there's like fire boulders that drop down in the ice level that are impossible to avoid. There's certain combinations that are just like, it's just a clusterfuck of enemies on screen. There's like the ground scarab level that's completely randomized, and it's just a pain in the ass. It's almost impossible to avoid getting hit. It's like there's a lot of like Commander Yarmok stage. There's a part where you can't see spikes below you, so you have to make a leap of faith jump. There's so many parts in this game where if you don't know what to expect, you're gonna die your first time, guaranteed. The level design is a fucking mess, and I can't believe it got through any kind of like play testing. The bosses are extremely frustrating too. High Max is just so fucking tedious, where it's just like you have to avoid. You can only hit him in these certain phases, and you have just to avoid his attacks for like minutes on end. There's like the gate fight in the castle stages where you have to like send his shots back at him, but he like teleports over the arena, and there's like a bottomless pit that you can fall in. X6 is a fucking trash. It's complete trash. The only good thing about it is the music. The music is on fire. Like, it's amazing. Like, really, like, it's like a metal soundtrack. It just kicks ass. But, man, X6 is just, ugh. X7 is actually better than I remembered it being. It's often considered one of the worst games in the series. And it's not good. I would never play it again, but it's... I don't know, it's one of those games where it was like it tried to do 3D and it just doesn't control well. Most of the levels are in 3D, actually. There's not many side-scrolling levels to speak of. There's this horrible lock-on system that like never works. You have to unlock X by rescuing 64 Reploids, so most of the game you're not even going to be playing as X, which is fucking stupid. Axel was introduced, he's the worst fucking character ever. I hate playing as him. Transforming ability is completely useless. The level design is just really lazy. A lot of it's like kind of just boring and by the numbers, and then some of it is like extremely frustrating. Then there's the Flame Higher boss fight, which again is something that has to be seen to be believed. It's so fucking horrible. It just blows my mind. Where he just, every time you hit him, he says, "Burn it to the ground," in this really obnoxious voice. So it's like every second you're just hearing "burn it to the ground, burn it to the ground, burn it to the ground" over and over again. And it's just, oh my god. And he's so cheap too. You have to like basically you have to cheat essentially to kill him. And his level is very frustrating too, where Reploids can die and you're not going to know the first time through. You can get knocked off ledges really easily. Yeah, no, X7's not good. I'm not going to defend it too much. It's just coming off of X6. It was surprisingly competent in a lot of ways. But yeah, it's not worth playing. I'm certainly not going to play it again. And then finally X8, which this is where I'm probably going to get some heat, I guess. A lot of people love X8. I don't get it. I hate X8, honestly. I hated it the first time I played it. I hate it even more now. Again, it's like, there's too many convoluted systems. I don't like the medal system where you gather medals in the levels to kind of upgrade your characters. It's how you get your energy tanks. Like, they're basically, you have to buy them at the shop, as well as like your heart tanks, essentially. It's just grindy. I don't like having to grind for medals to fully upgrade my characters. It's just irritating. I don't like it at all. The level design I fucking hate in X8. It's so gimmicky. I think two of the stages are ride bike stages, which I hate. One of them you're like manipulating gravity, and it's just fucking boring, and just it's one of those levels that's, I guess, fine the first time, but going back through it to kind of collect the extra upgrades and things like that, it's so fucking tedious. There's a level where you have to you have to basically get through it really fast and get like good rankings. Again, kind of an interesting idea, but having to replay the level to get all the upgrades, it's so fucking annoying, because you have to like replay the entire level if you screw up just even slightly. It's just like there's hardly any traditional side-scrolling levels. A lot of them have like these really annoying puzzles. Like, I don't play a Mega Man X game or a Mega Man game to do puzzles. It's just, I honestly, I don't like any of the levels in X8. I think I hated every single one of them. The only good thing I can say about X8, though, the controls too, it just doesn't feel right. I know it's hard to describe, but it's got like a very slippery, like the controls are very slippery. It's just, I don't know, I don't like the way it feels. And then it's got the character switching stuff, which I was never super into. Axel, I don't particularly like playing as. Zero, I don't like playing as either. Also, X8, the enemies hit you way too hard in the beginning. It takes way too long to get your characters, I feel like, properly upgrade, where the difficulty kind of evens out a little bit. The boss fights are good. I'll give it X8 that. The boss fights are actually pretty interesting. A lot of interesting, cool patterns that you've got to kind of learn. But I don't know. I don't like X8. I'm sorry. I just don't like it. It's just, I don't know. The way the upgrade system works is just too... It's too much for me. I kind of wish, like, they would just go, I don't know, they just got too crazy with systems and upgrades. I much prefer the older games where it's just like armor capsules, heart tanks, and sub-tanks. That's it. You don't need more than that. So, yeah, I'm at like the castle stages in X8 right now, and I don't know. I just haven't been compelled to finish it, to be honest. I don't know. I really don't care for it. I don't really know what people see in that game, but... Anyways, that's enough for my Mega Man discussion. One last game here, which this is going to be the most controversial opinion of all here. So we've got Octopath Traveler on the Switch. I got the Wayfarers edition here, which, geez, I think this is like getting really expensive now. Now, okay, I was super excited for this game. It's done by the Bravely Default and Second Team, a classic turn-based RPG with some of the most amazing visuals I've seen in a very long time. Just gorgeous, gorgeous visuals. Beautiful soundtrack in this game as well. And then you have like the 8 characters that you choose and kind of follow the stories. Everything about this game on paper sounded like, oh man, I'm gonna absolutely love it. The game came out, the reviews were like really high, and people were really up on this game. Like a lot of people I know just adored this game. I don't like it. I don't like it. I maybe put about 20 hours into it. I don't want to play it. I don't want to come back to it. It's not for me. There's a lot I can say about it, what kind of put me off about it. I guess to kind of sum it up, okay. The writing is extremely bland and cliched. I don't like any of the character stories. The only one that's remotely interesting to me is Primrose, because it's a lot darker than the rest of them, and I typically like darker storylines, but the rest of them are just like, oh my god, it's the kind of shit that you've seen in like so many RPGs before, and it's so dull. Like, there's so many times playing this game where I was so tempted to skip dialogue, because it went on and on and on, and and the characters don't interact with each other either, other than like these little skits. Then when you go to like an inn, you'll have some interactions as well. But it's just, I don't know, everything felt so disconnected in that way, and none of it was engaging. Nothing to do with the writing or the characters. And the structure of the game too is just, it's painful. It's painfully tedious, where it's just like, you have to basically, each character has a bunch of chapters, and you can kind of do it in any order. But you'll essentially want to choose like 4 characters and level them up. The problem is your other characters are kind of benched, and they don't gain experience while your other characters are gaining experience. And they'll end up being under-leveled, so you have to grind. And that leads me to one of my biggest complaints with this game, is the grind. This is one of the grindiest RPGs I've played in years. Because if you want the true ending in this game, you gotta see all the characters' stories to completion. And yeah, you can probably do 4 characters, see their stories to completion, and then call it a day. I'm not the type of player that can do that. I can't leave things unfinished like that. And this game requires you to grind. It just does, because the level requirements for the different chapters are so fucked. You'll basically complete a character's chapter, right? And it might require them to be like level 11. You'll be like level 12 or 13 or whatever, and it's fine. And then you'll get to chapter 2, and you have to be level 26, and your character is level 14. Like, what the fuck? It's unbelievable. And even if you do all the other characters' first chapters, because I think that's the way they intend for you to do it, you're still going to be under-leveled at certain points. So it's just an endless grind, this game. And when the storyline and the characters aren't engaging, it's really hard to have the motivation to continue. The battle system in this game is probably the game's strongest point, but even then, it's a huge regression from the Bravely default, or the Bravely series. You still have the, with the combat in this game, you still have that, there's like it's not called the Brave system, but you're essentially like, charging up like, geez, it's been a while since I've played this, but you're like charging up, I guess it's BP or whatever, it's like a SP or, I forget what they call it in this game, but the more you charge it up, the stronger your attacks are going to be, so you can do like a bunch of attacks in a row and do like tons of damage. It's this cool system that kind of, do you just save up all these like points to do super powerful attacks, or do you just do lighter, weaker attacks? And there's a good amount of strategy in the battle system. It's fairly snappy. It's a fairly engaging turn-based system, but there's just a lot more going on in the Bravely games. There was a lot more mechanics involved in that game. And then the job system in this is extremely streamlined. There's not many skills that characters can have, and you'll actually end up getting a lot of, like, all the skills possible for a certain character type pretty early on in the game, although there are some hidden super jobs that you can find from what I saw. But the Bravely games, there's so much more customization with the jobs. Like, you can mix and match, and you can break the game in so many interesting ways. There's just so much more to do with your characters compared to this, which is just, I don't know, it's just there's hardly any meaningful customization or progression in this game. So it becomes rote. It becomes rote very quickly, and eventually the battles just weren't engaging for me anymore. There was just nothing. I don't know. It came to a point where I wasn't really having fun with battles 20 hours in. And then enemies are just extreme damage sponges in this game. Like, the bosses take forever, to the point where you almost have to break the game in ways. There's like the field skills too, I guess, which is kind of cool. You can, like, each character has their field skill where you can actually end up stealing like super high level weapons early on in the game, which, from the looks of it, looks like a lot of people actually had to do things like that to stand a chance against some of the bosses in this game. I heard also, like, to get the true ending in this game, you have to like fight 8 bosses in a row without saving, and then there's a final boss that can like one-shot your entire party unless you're like max level. So more grinding, yay! Have fun grinding endlessly like you've been doing the entire fucking game. Yeah, I don't like it. I'm sorry, I don't like Octopath. I think this game is extremely disappointing. I don't know, it just did not hold my attention. I have no interest in going back to it. But people love it. People seem to absolutely adore this game, so I don't know, maybe it's just me. And you know what? I am glad it's selling so well, though. It's actually the best-selling game of July, which is good to see, because we need more of these style of games, these old-school turn-based RPGs. I just wish this was better. Like, honestly. I don't know, I think the most surprising thing to me, though, about it is just how much of a regression it is from the Bravely games. Like, those games did everything better. It's like, seriously, if you haven't played those, and you've played and enjoyed this, go back and play those. Those games are excellent. They actually have good story and characters to them. They actually have amazing character progression and customization, and a more engaging, more in-depth battle system. I don't know. I don't know. I don't know. This game, yeah, it's very disappointing. This is like the second RPG on the Switch now to really disappoint me. Xenoblade 2 is disappointing for me as well, although that game is much better than this. I at least finished that and enjoyed that, but anyway, sorry to be negative at the end here, because I know a lot of people love Octopath, but I don't know, just not for me, which is a shame, because I was really looking forward to it. But anyways, that's it, guys. What are you guys playing? I'll definitely try to do like a Shenmue 1 and 2 review when I do finally finish those games. But anyways, that's it, guys. I want to thank you for watching. I'll see you next time.